As Africa's leading defense news portal, DefenceWeb aims to give you the latest updates on African defense, the South African National Defense Force, and the defense industry. In this week's edition, Cameroon takes delivery of military hardware for its Central African Republic peacekeeping mission, and Kruger poaching numbers rise as lockdown eases. In SANDF news, Defense Minister Mapisa-Nqakula bemoans 15 billion budget reduction. Defense oversight committees note Mapisa-Nqakula's affordable defense ambition plan. Sexual exploitation and abuse offenders are to be speedily dealt with in the military. Soldiers confiscate illicit cigarettes and wildlife on border patrol duty. Military veterans database cleansing is underway, and an improvement is expected in military veterans affairs. In industry news, Paramount's Bronco II is selected by US Special Operations Command for its Armed Overwatch demonstration, and Aerospace and the South African defense sector identifies viable investments. In African defense news, Cameroon takes delivery of military hardware for Central African Republic peacekeeping mission. Cameroon has received the first of 2 consignments of military equipment, including armored personnel carriers, 4x4s, trailers, and personal protective equipment for its troops taking part in peacekeeping efforts in the neighboring Central African Republic. Defense Minister Delegate Joseph Betty Asamo officially received the equipment on the 11th of May in a ceremony at Airbase 201 in the economic capital, Douala. The consignment includes 9 RQs, previously ACMAT, Bastion armored personnel carriers, 35 trailers, 24 heavy-duty generator sets, and about 45 vehicles including land cruiser, ambulance, and utility vehicles. The delivery is part of a big order which will be completed in the near future. According to Group OMP Solutions, the French company which has been supplying equipment for Cameroon's military since December 2014, and which is also a major partner in offering services for UN peacekeeping operations around the world. 24 Bastion vehicles are expected to be delivered to Cameroon. Kruger poaching numbers rise as lockdown eases. Rhino poaching has increased at an alarming rate, with the Kruger National Park's rhino numbers dropping by 70% over the past decade. 2020 saw poaching numbers decrease due to the coronavirus lockdown, restricting movement in and around the park, but as travel restrictions ease, the poaching numbers are on the rise. Kruger is roughly home to 30% of the world's rhino population, giving it a major responsibility in the conservation of these animals. Aside from syndicated criminal networks poaching rhino horn, internal corruption has been uncovered, breaking trust that Kruger National Park members had with one another in anti-poaching operations. This has been exacerbated by the KMP's large stockpile of rhino horn from rhinos that have died of natural causes. In a virtual meeting held on 6th of May, the Parliament Portfolio Committee on Environment, Forestry and Fisheries heard various presentations by SA National Parks, including on poaching and efforts to contain it. The first presentation by Kruger Ranger Services said that their staff, who should be focusing on conservation management, are having to do law enforcement and subsequently placing their lives at risk. The committee heard that poachers are predominantly young men from impoverished communities surrounding the park. With a lack of job opportunity and education, the young men, despite the risk and danger, turn to poaching. Unless we address that poverty and unless we address the deprivation that exists on the outside of the park, our ability to be able to stop rhino poaching and to be able to crack the syndicate that are on top of this chain is going to be very limited, KMP Ranger Services said. The full article from the virtual meeting can be found on our website. And in SANDF news, Defense Minister bemoans 15 billion rand budget reduction. Introducing her budget vote in the National Assembly on the 18th of May, Defense and Military Veterans Minister Mapisa-Nqakula emphasized the impact of an over 15 billion rand reduction in defense funding, which reduces capital expenditure to a trickle and puts the operating budget under extreme pressure. She asked parliamentarians to approve the 46.268 billion rand allocated to her department by National Treasury after outlining achievements and challenges the SA National Defence Force faces in executing its major constitutional mandate of ensuring all South Africans feel and are safe. At the same time, Mapisa-Nqakula again posed the question she has done on a number of prior occasions, albeit in a slightly different form. Is this House satisfied with the current resourcing of the National Defence Force that is consistent with the obligations placed on it by the Constitution? She previously phrased it along the lines of South Africans must decide what sort of National Defence Force they want. In a further allusion to what the SANDF can do, she pointedly reminded parliamentarians parliamentarians, defence can only perform to the extent it is resourced and funded. I once again ask this House to apply its mind and wisdom to the question, what kind of defence force should South Africa have and what can it afford? The Minister said South Africa needs a defence force that can influence widely, react swiftly, contain effectively and support efficiently wherever it is deployed. Adding fiscal constraints mean the SANDF will have to rebalance its military capabilities toward a future force that has a wide range of utility. Defence Oversight Committees note Mapisa-Nqakula's Affordable Defence Ambition Plan. The man at the helm of Parliament's Defence Oversight Committees sees the development of a policy position on an affordable level of defence ambition for South Africa as a major plus from Minister Mapisa-Nqakula's budget vote. Reacting to a 46.268 billion rand budget, Cyril Kruger, Joint Standing Committee on Defence and Portfolio Committee on Defence and Military Veterans co-chair, said tasking the Secretary for Defence Gladys Kruger was perhaps the most important part of the Mapisa-Nqakula address to the National Assembly. The JSCD and PCDMV have, in the 6th Parliament, focused extensively on these matters and will continue to oversee the Minister on these crucial undertakings. Parliament will strive to contribute to the debate around defence and help answer the Minister's question, what kind of national defence force should South Africa have and what can it afford? The way forward requires urgency and execution from the Minister and Department of Defence as well as parliamentary oversight equal to the task, Kruger told Defence Web. He is of the opinion the defence budget vote should be welcomed both for its positive view of the SA National Defence Force contribution to the country and its realistic outlook on challenges facing the organisation. As with other defence watchers, Kruger is concerned about ongoing reductions in the defence budget. This is crucial as it will negatively affect SANDF operational capabilities if not addressed urgently. Kruger appreciates the 5 key undertakings Mapisa-Nqakula made in her budget vote address. They include implementation of cost-saving measures on personal expenditure, developing a force design cognizant of South Africa's strategic circumstances, focusing on force rejuvenation, and, in collaboration with Arms Corps, developing a pragmatic recommendation for modernising the SANDF, he said. See offenders to be speedily dealt with in the military. In the short space of 2 months, officials and officers from Mapisa-Nqakula's Department of Defence and SA National Defence Force clearly demonstrated where there's a will, there's a way. The commitment shown in plans to effectively deal with sexual exploitation and abuse, or C, in government defence structures is strong evidence of the Minister's commitment to eradicating this particular evil in both the uniformed and civilian components she oversees. One is a specialised sexual offence unit in the military police structure. It will investigate offences for prosecution in the military justice system. Coordination of C complaints will be initially dealt with via a sexual misconduct office and ministerial hotline in the Defence Ministry as part of the DoD Misconduct Centre. To accurately keep track of C incidents and progress to prosecution or otherwise, the DoD is now home to a central electronic registry to monitor and report monthly on statistics submitted by the SANDF services, divisions and units. Parliamentarians recently heard the DoD now has an own sexual harassment policy coupled to one for ethics. These instruments make provision for divisional punitive action. Mapisa-Nqakula's men and women are now entitled to strict confidentiality when reporting C offences. Training will in the future, according to her, mainstream gender as well as awareness and consequences of sexual misconduct. Soldiers confiscate illicit cigarettes and wildlife on border patrol duty. SA National Defence Force soldiers protecting South Africa's borders as part of Operation Corona confiscated more illicit cigarettes and unusually wildlife in mid-May. At the Beitbridge port of entry, 40 master boxes and 82 cartons of cigarettes were confiscated with an estimated value of 584,481 rand. The SANDF said after the second weekend of May operation. Joint operations with the SA Police Service at Beitbridge also confiscated 230 packets of contraceptives valued at 36,300 rand. Unusually, the operation also saw the confiscation of 1,100 emperor scorpions, 42 Natal hinge-back tortoises, and a Nile monitor. These animals were packed tightly in plastic jerry cans with small holes, and their collective value is 810,318 rand. Recovery of stolen livestock and vehicles, confiscation of contraband, and apprehension of undocumented persons remain the major components of the work done by soldiers protecting South Africa's land borders. In April, the 15 companies of mostly infantry soldiers with good reserve force unit representation prevented 2,472 people not legally allowed in South Africa from doing so, according to the Directorate Corporate Communication of the National Defence Force. Over half the illegal immigrants were from Mozambique and were apprehended in Mpumalanga. Soldiers manning the Mozambique border confiscated unsuspected narcotics valued at 3.7 million rand in the fourth month of the year, and also took contraband goods, again not specified but generally cigarettes, liquor and clothing, worth 3.6 million rand from cross-border smugglers. smugglers. Military veterans database cleansing underway. Indications are a long and tedious process awaits those involved in cleansing the National Military Veterans Database, with 3 verification sessions held to date. These sessions, under the aegis of Department of Military Veterans with retired General Derek Mgwebi in charge as Acting Director General, will evaluate 5,921 personal files from 3 former liberation forces. They are APLA, Azanian People's Liberation Army, Azanla, Azanian National Liberation Army, and MK, Mkhonto Wesizwe, representing the latest available information on what is officially termed the cleansing of the National Military Veterans Database to Parliament's Joint Standing Committee on Defence in mid-May. Mgwebi said a database cleansing, verification, and enhancement task team was appointed to reinforce the cleansing process. This, when complete, will ensure the names and details captured are in fact military veterans and entitled to benefits including healthcare, assistance with education, and business opportunities, as well as funeral benefits. Mgwebi's presentation showed a total of 19,725 non-statutory force soldiers from 3 liberation forces registered on the database. Of these, 12,569 are reportedly still alive, with 7,156 deceased. Improvement expected in military veterans affairs with own budget. South Africa's military veterans now have an own budget, rather than being an add-on to the defence budget. The senior government representative with special responsibility for veterans affairs said in the National Assembly in mid-May. Thabang Makwetla, Deputy to Minister Mapisa-Nqakula in the Department of Defence and Military Veterans, indicated the separate vote for veterans came about because of a perception among old and retired soldiers that things are not happening for them or their interests are neglected due to the absence of a dedicated military veterans ministry. He pointed out the separate vote for military veterans sees the responsibility of accounting for own budget through Department of Military Veterans accounting and budget systems. And in industry news, Bronco II selected by US Special Operations Command for Armed Overwatch demo. The United States has selected the Bronco II multi-role aircraft to take part in the Special Operations Command Armed Overwatch flight demonstration, along with the Textron Aviation Defense AT-6E Wolverine, L3AT-802U Skywarden, MAG Aerospace MC-208 Guardian, and Sierra Nevada Corporation M28/C-145 Wile E. Coyote. On 14th May, Special Operations Command announced that it had awarded 5 fixed-price prototype project other transaction agreements totaling $19 million to 5 companies for prototype demonstrations in mid-2021. Each company will fly 4 demonstration flights between the 14th of June and the 23rd of July at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. If the prototype project is successful, a company would be requested to provide a proposal for a follow-on production award, most likely in 2022. Special Operation Command's 75 aircraft Armed Overwatch acquisition was halted in November, when flight trials were originally due to commence, but resumed after a review, according to Aviation Week. The Bronco II will now face off against the AC-208 armed Cessna Caravan turboprop M28/C-145, a new armed version of the Skytruck twin-engine light transport, AT-802U armed version of the Crop Duster, and AT-6E Wolverine trainer/light attack aircraft. Leidos, Paramount Group USA, and Vertex Aerospace in May last year announced they had teamed up to pursue the Armed Overwatch contract with the Bronco II intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance and light attack aircraft. Leidos is the prime contractor, and Paramount and Vertex are primary teammates. The Bronco II would be manufactured in Crestview, Florida, and designed to meet the specific needs of U.S. Special Operations Command. Aerospace and defense sector identifies viable investments. The South African aerospace and defense sector has identified a number of commercially viable investments over the next 5 years, with firms open to discussions on how to realize them with the support of the state. Combined investments of 4.65 billion rand would generate a potential market of 66.7 billion rand and create nearly 7,000 direct jobs, according to the 2020 Aerospace and Defense Master Plan. South Africa could capture 15 billion rand of the special mission aircraft market, creating 450 direct jobs in the process. Investment of 150 million rand would be required to double production. Investment could include upgrading the Civil Aviation Authority certification process, acquiring South African Air Force flight test support, and generating marketing support. Investment in armored vehicles could create 300 direct jobs. For an investment of 500 million, production could be doubled for 1 billion rand market potential. At 1.2 billion rand investment in maritime maintenance, repair, and overall and manufacturing, defense technology development and subsystem manufacturing could see 500 direct and 2,000 downstream jobs created. A 150 million rand investment in missiles could create 2,050 jobs. Market potential is 6 billion rand, while the current market is 900 million rand a year. A 1.5 billion rand investment in artillery could create 1,400 jobs and tap into a potential 11.8 billion rand market. Similarly, a 1 billion rand investment in mortars could create 800 jobs, and a 50 million rand investment in 40mm ammunition could create 120 jobs and tap into a 4 billion rand market. Spending 100 million rand on plant engineering could create 900 jobs and tap into a 8.9 billion rand market, particularly in the Middle East, Hungary, Egypt, and Indonesia. The Aerospace and Defense Master Plan said private sector entities believe these instruments will prove commercially viable in an enabling environment over the next 5 years, and the relevant firms are open to discussion as to how these investment opportunities can be realized with the support of the state. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For the latest leading and trusted news in defense, aerospace, and maritime security, like and subscribe to our social media channels. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and have the latest aerospace, defense, and security developments delivered to your inbox. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.